Shifting our focus over to the grain markets now, this week we had the opportunity to catch up with Todd Hultman from DTN. Harvest progress continues across the United States at a good pace. There are some challenges though, particularly when it comes to shipping grain that is concerning traders. We got into that with Todd, but began by getting his general take on the grain complex. Well, let's get into the grain complex here. What's your general take on the corn, soybean, and wheat markets?
Oh, we have a lot of factors hitting us from all different directions these days. And most notably, we have a bearish outside influence from concerns about higher interest rates. Is the U.S. economy headed to a recession? Is the world economy headed to a recession? But overall, within the grain fundamentals, we have a very tight fundamental supply situation for all three big crops, corn, soybeans, and wheat. And that, I think, is really holding prices together quite well, in spite of a lot of outside concerns.
You mentioned the word recession there. We are hearing that a lot lately, but frankly, we've been hearing that for several months now. Is that a big concern on your big list of the things impacting the commodities right now?
Well, frankly, it hasn't been, Bryce, because it does affect traders. It affects traders, the things they worry about. And in that aspect, it does have an effect on our grain prices. But overall, food demand is fairly immune to talk of recession, especially in the case of wheat. Wheat has almost no demand correlation to the economy's ups and downs. So, whether we have a good year or a bad year economically, people still have to eat. And that tends to keep the demand situation moving.
Todd, it's hard not to get on social media, on Facebook or Twitter right now and not see some of the pictures of the Mississippi River and how dry it is in some areas. I've got a viewer question I'll get to here in a moment about the Nebraska Impact, but big picture, what can you share with our viewers about that situation?
Well, obviously, it's very tough, and I don't think the situation is being exaggerated at all. In fact, we have a dry Platte River in Nebraska, and we have dry rivers all around the world. Europe had dry rivers this year. The Yangtze River in China is dry, and so yes, we're seeing it hit home here on the Mississippi. And the unfortunate thing is, it's hitting us at harvest time when we really depend on those barge traffic to move that corn and soybeans downriver to the Gulf. This particular time of year is especially the active season for soybeans. We need to get those soybeans moving to the Gulf, so most likely we can get them headed toward China before Brazil's big crop shows up in February of 2023. So it is a concern.
I saw shipments on soybeans down nearly 25%, corn also down. If I remember those statistics right. Had a viewer question, Todd, that I mentioned here. They were asking about the Nebraska Impact. Of course, you don't think of the Mississippi there, but I know it has an impact on traders' minds, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Just the fact that it's tough overall for the nation to fulfill the export sales or export possibilities, I should say, that we have. And for right now, especially in the case of soybeans, that tends to have a depressive effect on all the cash prices around the country. Now, here in Nebraska, we're actually doing fairly well. The cash soybean prices stand in the low 13s. On corn, we see upper 6s to low 7s, which is even a little better than the national average. Some of the areas to the north of us, the Dakotas, they're going to ship grain to the PNW, and they're actually going to benefit from a dry Mississippi River. But I would still say in general that it tends to scare traders a bit away from the market when they hear this type of news.
Todd, you shared some of those local prices, basis still strong, it seems like, across the countryside. I think that has some of our producers, we've talked about this with several analysts over the past few weeks, talking about what to do. Do you hold on to your grain? Do you go ahead and move it across to an end user right away? I saw you wrote, Todd, you're suggesting hanging on to a bulk of that. Do I understand correct?
Yeah, so in the case of corn, we've already recommended making 50% sales of your 2022 production. I mean, it's just hard not to take advantage of these good prices, even if they are at harvest time. In the case of soybeans, we have not moved any 2022 production yet. And I really think we're going to see better opportunities come our way in the January to May period. For soybeans. And we just have a very strong demand situation. As you mentioned, the basis is uncommonly strong for this time of year in both corn and soybeans. But in soybeans in particular, we just have such a strong demand situation sitting up The crush incentive right now, Bryce, for soybeans is among the best that the soybean processors have ever seen. So if we can get beyond these little export hurdles that we have this fall and get past some of this harvest pressure, when the grain gets stored away and end users have to come knocking on your door, that's when you tend to get the better price.
Todd, I'll give you the final word here. What else would you like to leave our viewers with today?
Oh, gosh. Well, I know you're hearing about a lot of negative headlines, not only for the U.S., but around the world. But I just want to encourage you that the demand for food and feed in the world is as needed as it ever has been. The war in Ukraine is still a very ugly scenario, still has a lot of risk and uncertainty to it. And the UN is talking about concerns about increased hunger and food insecurity situations around the world this year. So that grain production is needed as much as ever. I think the outlook is still positive in terms of expecting higher prices as we get into the winter months. And don't let the negative headlines get you too down.